I woke up to whispers in the dark. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but then I heard it again. My brother's voice, low, desperate, and my wife's voice, quiet but not resisting. That's when I knew something was wrong. I should start from the beginning. My name is Kwame, and I live in a small village in Ghana. I have always believed in family. My parents raised my brother, Kojo, and me to be close, to never betray each other. But what do you do when the person you trust the most is the one holding a knife behind your back? Kojo and I grew up together, sharing everything. He was younger than me by 3 years, but always felt like my equal. He was the smart one, the one who could talk his way out of trouble. I was the responsible one, the one who worked hard and provided. When I married Adwoa, I thought my life was perfect. She was beautiful, kind, and loyal, or at least I thought she was. Everything started changing after Kojo came to stay with us. He had fallen on hard times, and as his brother, I took him in without question. I gave him a place to sleep, food to eat, but I should have seen the way he looked at my wife. I should have noticed how she smiled a little too long when he complimented her. One night I woke up thirsty. I went to the kitchen for water, and that's when I saw them. Not touching, not kissing, but standing too close, their hands almost meeting in the dark. I didn't say anything that night. I told myself I was imagining things, but the feeling wouldn't leave. The way Kojo always seemed to be in the same room as Adwoa. The way she laughed at his jokes in a way she never did with mine. The way they avoided my eyes when I entered the room. Then came the worst night of my life. It was a festival night, and the whole village was celebrating. There was music, food, dancing, but Adwoa said she had a headache. She wanted to stay home. Kojo offered to stay back too. To keep her company, he said with a smile. I felt something cold settle in my chest, but what kind of man would I be if I didn't trust my own brother? I went to the festival. I tried to enjoy myself, but I couldn't shake the feeling. It was like something was pulling me back home. So I left early. When I got to the house, the door was slightly open. My heart pounded. I stepped inside quietly, and then I heard it, Kojo's voice. If he wasn't your husband, would you love me instead? First silence, then Adwoa's voice, barely above a whisper. Why do you ask questions that will only bring pain? My whole body went numb. I wanted to walk in. I wanted to scream, but I stood there, frozen, listening. Kojo's voice again. You don't have to answer. I already know. That was the moment something inside me broke. I walked into the room and they jumped apart. Their faces were filled with shock, guilt, fear. I stared at them, waiting for someone to speak. Adwoa opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. Don't! My voice didn't even sound like mine. Kojo tried to explain, but there was nothing to explain. I could see the truth in his eyes. That night, I told Kojo to leave my house. He begged. He swore he had never touched her. He swore he would never betray me. I can't control my heart, brother, he said, but I swear on our mother's grave, I have never touched her. It didn't matter. He had already betrayed me in the worst way. And Adwoa? She cried. She said she never wanted this. She said she loved me. But love shouldn't come with secrets. I didn't know what to do. In my village, family is everything. If I exposed them, my brother would be shunned. My wife would be disgraced. But if I stayed silent, I would be the one living in torment. In the end, I let Kojo go. He left the village and I haven't seen him since. But the damage was done. My marriage was never the same. I tried to forgive, but every time I looked at Adwoa, I heard her voice in the dark. Why do you ask questions that will only bring pain? Maybe I should have asked sooner. Maybe I should have never let Kojo in. But it's too late now. And some wounds never heal. Time passed, but the silence in my home was deafening. Adwoa tried to act like things were normal, but we both knew better. I became distant. I stopped talking as much, stopped laughing. I would go to work and come home late, just to avoid sitting in the same room as her. I told myself I was staying for the sake of my honor, for the sake of our reputation. But in truth, I stayed because I didn't know what else to do. One night I sat outside our hut staring at the moon. Old man Kwaku, the village elder, walked by and stopped. He looked at me for a long time before sitting beside me. "A broken heart is heavier than a bag of stones," he said quietly. I said nothing. "She was your wife, but your brother took something from you. Even if it was only a feeling, it was still a theft." I turned to him. "What should I do?" He shook his head. "That is not for me to say, but the heart cannot live in a house filled with ghosts. Either make peace with your past or walk away from it." That night I slept in the guest hut, and the next morning I packed my things. Adwoa didn't try to stop me. She just stood in the doorway, watching as I left.